artist.
I am an artist.
I'm an artist.
I'm an artist.
I'm an artist.
I am an artist.
I'm an artist.
I'm an artist.
And
we are artists.
Hi there, listener. You're listening to the We Are Artists podcasts. I'm Shannon, and you can find me on most social media networks as Shantastic Shine, or look up Shannon Shine Art. I'd love for you to check me out. And who are you?
I'm Lacey Vilandry, and you can find me on many different social medias as Silver Arrow Art.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. I hope you enjoy. Hello. Welcome to the We Are Artists podcast. This could be our first. It could be a not. So if you're just tuning in, welcome. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing swell. Shannon, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Lacey. I'm excited. I'm excited for this podcast. I'm excited for all of the crazy projects that we both got in the fire right now. There's a lot going on for artists.
There is so much going on, and I'm kind of amazed at my ability to not have burnt out yet.
Oh, I'm amazed as well for you and me.
I'm amazed for you as well.
Yeah, we're getting ready to launch Shine Online. I've done a bunch of interviews. We've opened a studio in Princeton. We're in the new podcast room, which it feels really good to be in this room using this equipment. We probably sound better on here than we have on anything else I've tried to record for us.
Yeah, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Is this what being an adult feels like? No, it's not.
I don't think I'm ever going to grow up.
No, I don't think I know what that is even.
Yeah, I can relate. But okay, so in case this is our first episode, which it might not be, I don't know. We'll see if the other one's recorded good enough. And if not, they'll still be released on Patreon. I think that's a good place. Or on Discord. So what does being an artist mean to you? Bam.
Art is a compulsory process, or a compulsory activity to process being trapped in a flesh prison.
So you say it's basically like a healing practice?
Yes. And also just a necessary thing to process being alive, both joy, sorrow, and silly and chaotic and everything else.
All the feelings. I can relate to that. My art's definitely a blast of whatever emotions I'm going through. I do find that I often get to paint more when I'm in the sads. And it's funny because all my artwork is very colorful in the opposite of sads.
Yeah.
But it's because that's when I get to be the most quiet and introspective, and I don't human well. So I have to have something to do with my hands and my brain, and my art just kind of flows out. Sometimes it's on a canvas, sometimes it's jewelry, sometimes it's poetry. So it's been a journey. When do you think you started making art? We might have answered this in another podcast, but just in case.
I started making art when I was in kindergarten. My mom always thought it was important for me to create, and I used to watch her and my sister create a lot, and it was it was in like first grade when I made my first series of drawings based on a nightmare that I kept on having, where like it was all sepia toned, and like these weird government people came and took over our school and took all the teachers away.
Wow.
And then like the kids had to band together to fight the man.
That's interesting. And you made an art series or an art piece of it?
Yeah, I made like 50 drawings and put them all over the living room, trying to like have it essentially a whole like screenplay written out of the whole thing. I could not let it go. Yeah.
You still make a lot of art of some of your more shadow worky dreams, yeah?
Oh, for sure. I think that dreams are incredibly important. At least for myself. They are a core part of my spirituality, and I think that there's a lot more to dreams than a lot of people give it credit for.
I know there's been a few visitors to the gallery. We opened Shine Time Studios just a few weeks ago when we're recording this, And there's been one gentleman in particular that's been really kind of interested in one of your pieces that's part of the Shadow Work series. I've been interested in this piece too. It's kind of like gargoyle-y of sorts.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that one a little bit?
It's a giant, smoky, gargoyle-y dragon that appears in my dreams when I go places I'm not supposed to. He's a recurring character that kind of jumps out from behind something, and as soon as he appears, the dream just starts getting real dark until you can't see anything, and then a new dream starts.
That's kind of neat. So I find it interesting because we have that piece. It's called, is it Maybe It's Nice?
But maybe it's friendly.
Okay, I always get that one close, but not correct. But maybe it's friendly.
Fair.
It's close. I do my best. I have to remember the names of lots of paintings.
Dude, you don't have to remember the names of paintings.
But I have that one hanging in the gallery right now, and then we also have the devil. And I've had a couple people walk in, and they're like, "This is an arts and wellness studio. Why do you have such dark art?" And I'm like, because it's protective. And powerful. And to me, you can't have light without the darkness. And I've had a few very, for lack of a better term, interesting characters walk into the studio a few times. And I find myself, anytime I feel uncomfortable, I look at the Maybe It's Friendly. Did I say it right? The Maybe It's Friendly painting, and I almost feel like that creature kind of pops out and goes into protective mode, like energetically. And then soon after I like visualize calling upon it, the person leaves. Or they like change their energy like pretty instantly, which has been really protective for me, or felt very protective for me.
Yeah.
So that's been really cool. And then the devil piece, it shows a lot of light and darkness. I would love to hear what inspired that one, because it recently had a transformation, like a facelift.
Yeah, I started it back in 2017 after my first trip to Italy to learn from Lawrence Caruana and Autumn Sky Morrison and Kevin Campo. And then during the pandemic, it got its facelift, and I went in for probably like another solid year on that painting and turned it into an oil painting. And it's mostly about like the devil concerns himself with like traps within ourselves, like our own personal vices and addictions and our own like temptations or whatever that kind of takes us off the path that we want to be on. And that's not to say that stopping and indulging in those temptations and even sitting down in the devil's cave, like every once in a while, is even necessarily terrible or a bad thing. Because everybody needs rest and everybody needs to allow themselves the pleasures and enjoyments of life that they need to. But then to almost take those same emotions that are within like these states of unfulfilled desire and unfulfilled temptation, and using that to kind of drive you to your greatest heights and your greatest potential.
Using it to drive you to your greatest potential.
Instead of enslaving you.
Ooh, I love that, because sometimes I do feel like a slave to my everything. My art practice, my gallery.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. Beautiful. Well, I love that, and I've really enjoyed having those pieces and being able to experience them as well as some of the others. Recently, you've also been working on the tower. What's that been like for you?
The cards have an interesting way of those patterns and cycles and themes popping up very significantly as I'm working on the pieces. So the tower is
towering.
And it's beautiful and destructive and chaotic. And the thing about the tower is that everything that's falling needs to fall in order to make room for the stable foundation of what's to come. And I kind of think about the tower falling apart and instead becoming a labyrinth or a garden.
I do love that. And I like that you've created the full character in your tarot to be, at least in that card, kind of angelic, and it's like rising from the ashes of the tower.
Yeah, and it's about like learning to remember to rely on yourself and know that you are strong enough and you do have wings. You can change your situation, but if you don't trust yourself, you'll come crashing down again.
Beautiful. I feel like I've been kind of creating a lot of that same storytelling in my I've been calling it the Sleeping Goddess, or a series where I have a lot of feminine figures, but their eyes are closed, and it's like the visions of feminine energy right now. That's what I've been focusing on, and they're going through the different chapters of life, kind of like the Fool does in tarot. I've got the siren, where she's understanding the flow of water and what it means to surround yourself with the flow of the creatures around you. She's got 2 koi fish. And then I've got the archer, which is like building strength and using your warrior energy to protect yourself, but also be vulnerable, because in that one she's not wearing much clothes, and she's embracing the body form while being a warrior. My favorite one out of my series, I think, has been the garden goddess, and I did it at the second art party. We've had 2 of them, right? The second art party, and that event was just really powerful. There were so many amazing artists that came together for that one. And you were like one of the main facilitators. You and Ashton put most of that together. Yeah,
mostly Ashton, really. Like, she kind of, she would, like, I'm always the kind of like, hey, help me with the thing, and I will help with the thing. Yeah. But,
But the art party is just like, it's been so magical. I don't believe we're doing it this year, but I have a feeling it's going to come back in a unique form.
Oh, yeah.
But that was cool because we got like Caitlin Page, we had Randall Roberts, we had you and Ashton Hill, and Harrison was involved, and Brian Stacy, all the Bryans were there, and it's really fun to see what happens when you put a bunch of artists. We've kind of claimed the term artners together, and see what comes out of it. And it's always a beautiful experience, whether it's a festival or,
So, like, it's so funny to go out and just paint with, like, one other painter at a time. Because people will always assume that you're a couple, but especially, like, within our, like, crew of partners, like, we are much more intimate than, like, a lot of regular, like, I mean, I don't want to say that, like, we're special or anything, but, like, we do have an intimacy with each other that often makes people think that we are all in love with each other, and we are.
Yeah, in different ways. It's beautiful. Each person comes with such a unique energy.
Like, me and Harrison were painting at the Smoke Lounge the other day, and someone asked us, are you a couple? And Harrison just, like, put it so perfectly. They're just like a couple of really good partners. And that just made me crack up. It was so perfect, and I was just like, that's so good.
Yeah, because I mean, we're like a soul family to me. We all found each other, especially those of us that are hiding here in Princeton right now. Like, there's no other reason we've been put here other than to support each other as like the wild little soul partners that we are. It's really a beautiful experience. So, yeah, I think this has been, well, we're only 13 minutes in. What's one more thing you feel like we should share on this podcast?
Well, I just wanted to add on to, like, the intimacy of, like, our friendships and stuff, and us, like, coming together, like, learning that genuinely how collaboration over competition is absolutely crucial to making our group dynamic work. And not just that, but, like, finding our individual ways and our individual voices in order to create that collaboration. It's like we all have the vision of creating a thriving artist community. It's not like, well, it's my individual vision, like, that, like, is a certain vibe in, like, a certain way. And that, but, like, and that it just allows for a lot more transformation and a lot more of, like, idea sharing of just learning ways of, like, learning answers to the questions that you don't ask.
Do you have a suggestion for anyone that wishes they could find their community in such a way? Like,
I started bringing my easel out to places, and then other artists found me, because I'm not necessarily one to, like, just go randomly try to find my crew in a sea of people. But if I have my easel, it is a beacon. Or if I have a sketchbook, even if people don't, like, not even everybody wants to see my sketchbook. And so if you're not someone who feels comfortable with, like, sharing your art in that way, then, like, having your sketchbook out in public might, like, attract a random wild artist to come up and be like, hey, I draw too. Hey, do you want to draw together?
Yeah. And I want to invite people to be open-minded. And if you are, like, a seasoned artist listening to this, I'm sure... I know it does get old when people walk up to you and they're like, hey, my so-and-so draws, let me show you this picture. And, like, it can get old in some ways, but at the same time, like, that's somebody that really admires what you're doing. And I've found through my journey, it's really important to take the time to listen to people. Maybe not if they're, like, on, like, a Wook rampage, maybe not, but, like,
they can get a little weird.
At festivals it can get weird, but I've built such beautiful relationships with people at like vendor fairs or art galleries or even festivals where I've taken a time to just listen, and sometimes they have really beautiful art and they're like, oh, I'm not an artist, but I make art.
Yeah.
And that's always wild to me, because I believe if you put your heart and soul into it, you're an artist, whether you do it professionally to sell your art or not. If you're creating from your heart, whether it's art, music, writing, whatever, you should feel empowered to share the beauty that you're adding to the world. I know there were many festivals in my early years where, even though I was somebody who was selling my work, I've sold my work since I was, like, basically fresh out of high school, but I would go to these events and I wouldn't necessarily feel seen or invited by what was considered the in art crowd. I hung around the outside for a while, and even though I was, like, coordinating workshops and I was, like, a part of the festival staff, it felt like there was this barrier between me and the art gallery artists. And I realized that I thought it was a snobbiness for a minute, but it's really just a lot of artists are way more introverted than you think. So, like...
We're a bunch of just scared shaking cats.
Yeah, so I used to think, and I think there is this misconception that artists are snobby, but really, most of the time we're artists because, as extroverted as we may seem, we're just as introverted and relatable. And if they're not, and they are snobby, well, then that's not the artist you want to talk to anyway.
Yeah.
So
those aren't the fun ones. Come find the fun ones.
Yeah. But I did want to put that out there, because I know that there were years where I was like, oh, I'm never going to be as cool as all the artists in the art gallery, especially when I went to, like, Rootwire and, like, Tea Party, and, like, and even some of them are, like, people I'm really good friends with now, people you're going to hear on this podcast, which is funny. But I have found that they were just introverted, scared cats. It's funny how that works, right?
Oh, man. And that is, like, an introverted, socially anxious person's worst nightmare. Is that they're be putting off that they're snobby.
Yeah. I'm going to call one of them out, because I remember the first time I accidentally met Harrison, it was just, like, in passing, and I could tell that they were just, like, kind of overwhelmed. You've talked about this, being at festivals where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
And when you're used to festivals that have a couple hundred to 1,000, and then you go to an event like, I think it was one of the first, or no, it was like one of the last Rootwires, and there was a lot of people. And I was so excited, and I, like, went up to talk to them, and now I know this as their overwhelmed face. And then I was just like, oh, this artist is not going to ever want to be my friend. And now we, like, paint and hang out all the time. And they just had to, like, recalibrate for a second, and they, like, fell back into their character, and then they were, like, the coolest, most chill person. So if you ever, like, catch an artist off guard, maybe it's an off day. It's an off day. I'm excited to get Harrison and Ashton and the rest of our squad on here. It's gonna be good. Well, this has been fun. I feel like I want to do another episode where we I have a few things I want to talk to you about. But did you enjoy this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to figure out how to ask you more questions. I was going to, and then I got scared.
That's okay. Usually I just put in my 2 cents.
Yeah.
After you say something.
No, that's great. Like that's perfect. Like I was like, oh, I might have a good question here. Oh lordy, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Oh, it doesn't always have to make sense. You can ask. We're gonna have an episode where you just get to ask me the most randomest of questions.
Okay.
How can people find you and the cool stuff you're doing?
Silver Arrow art everywhere. It's gonna be YouTube because I'm on a YouTube kick right now, and TikTok and Instagram, and not so much my Facebook Silver Arrow art page. I kind of just post more to my personal page there because nobody sees my Silver Arrow art page because they want money.
Well, I see it. I think people have to like a few posts. So if someone goes to your Silver Arrow art page, go like a bunch of posts just randomly. It'll push you up in the algorithm. That'll be real good. So you can find me at Shantastic Shine on most platforms, or Shannon Shine. I'm trying to switch it. It's been Shantastic Shine for years, but I think I'd like to go just by Shannon now. But we will also be releasing a few previous episodes that we've attempted to record, and I am not a tech wizard. That's my partner's job. But we're going to release some of those on the Patreon. So check out the Bring Me to Life Patreon. I believe there is like a $2 tier. You can get some behind the scenes things. There is a free tier, but you get
$2 tier.
There's a lot of cool stuff on there. And it feels pretty accessible, and it also just makes us feel more safe. If you really want to
stability.
Yeah, support our dreams and help us bring it to life. That's a good way to do it. Yeah, so this is cool. Stay tuned. We got more things to talk about. Bye.